My friends, it has been a little bit since we've done a Conversation Sunday. I was gone a little bit last month, so it didn't feel quite right to do it in the month of March. But here we are, back to our monthly routine. And for some of us, this is exciting. We look forward to these. We're here each and every time. Some of us are going, oh, shoot. I didn't know it was going to be one of these. And then others are like, meh. Hopefully, we'll all get something, a nugget or two to take away with this. Regardless, selfishly, I'm quite excited for you to meet somebody who I have a great appreciation and respect for, Cris Saldivar, who is the East County Youth Collective organizer. Cris, would you join me up here, please? You're welcome. Yeah, you do have to push the button, yeah. Now, I'm going to quite rudely take my cell phone out.
Me too.
And the reason for that is I always try to set the time on this.
Okay.
Because I talk a lot. And
we have that in common, Giuseppe.
Yeah, yeah. And so this will go off after we've been up here for about 30 minutes.
Okay.
That way, the coffee doesn't get too full by the time we're out there.
Excellent.
Now, one thing I always like to ask folks when they're up here is, how would you like to introduce yourself to us? I'm aware that for most of us, this is the first time you're meeting. And the way I introduce you may not be the way that you would prefer to introduce yourself.
I love this question. Thank you so much for having me, everybody. Disclaimer, I always introduce myself with kind of a funny part of my identity. I'm the youngest daughter in a big immigrant family, so I love to share stories. I love to be included, which was hard with a lot of older siblings who were so busy. I was like the littlest duckling. So I always introduce myself as a sister, as a neighbor, as a friend, as an Oregonian. My folks migrated to Mount Hood, of all places. We'll talk about that later. To Mount Hood from Mexico in '89. So proud Oregonian, lover of the trees. And I introduce myself as an organizer who is passionate about the belonging and well-being of our young people in this community, in this state, and far and wide.
I think that's a pretty decent introduction.
I think I got a couple of things in there.
Yeah, it's a bit much for the weekly update, but yes. It's perfect for right here. So you were sharing a little bit about your relationship to the area. Do you live in Mount Hood now, or in the Mount Hood area now?
I will describe where I live in terms of where my heart is. So I like to say I have 1 foot or one part of my heart in the Mount Hood National Forest always, and then one in the community that I reside in North Portland. And now, since being in East County and organizing with so many wonderful communities, hilariously, East County is right in the middle of my 2 hearts. So now it's like my heart is doing this. And East County and so many of the relationships that I have are right in the middle. So I'm all over, but definitely rooted in the trees and in the people and just this incredible landscape that is our state.
Yeah. So I'm aware that some of us are going to remember having a conversation with Reverend Chris Dela Cruz about a future hopeful youth collective in our area one day. And many of us were not around for that conversation. And I'm hoping you can help remind us on what the East County Youth Collective is and what our relationship to it is.
Yeah, it's so fun to think back to conversations around the forming of the East County Youth Collective. So for those who weren't part of those dreams, I think you might have actually still been part of those dreams. But what the East County Youth Collective is is young people and the people who love them cultivating spaces of belonging and accompaniment through regular gatherings and community organizing support for hyperlocal initiatives. And my relationship to it is that I'm the organizer, so I get to run around and listen to community members and meet young people and dream with them and kind of pull all the threads together. And Park Rose Community UCC's relationship is that you support me in doing that with many gifts. So maybe I'll stop there and then I'll let you.
Would you like to share what those gifts are?
Yes, so many gifts. Literally, I walked in and I just felt such a warmth in here. So that's a big gift. And you all support the East County Youth Collective with financial contributions and gifts. So you are an anchor congregation to that, as well as Covenant Presbyterian Church, Trinity Lutheran Church, and Gethsemane Lutheran Church. So these four churches come together to dream and to gather our young people for these regular gatherings and to build off of collective spaces for young people to be.
And what's the age range you're talking about when you're saying young people? You mean infants, right?
Even though we are all young at heart, the people who I'm talking about are middle and high school students in East County, so ages like 12 to 18. Mm-hmm. Yes.
How old is East County Youth Collective now?
It is a baby. So I started at a really wild time to be an organizer and a really wild time to accompany young people. How many of you have a young person in your life that you love? Just show of hands. Okay, awesome. It's a wild time to be a young person. So I started the first week of October, which I will just name in our state, was incredibly intense. My first meeting with my team was when we were maybe going to have the National Guard here. Yep. And so hearing the voices on the ground of young people, that included so much fear and uncertainty, but also dreaming for something different of our community. So gosh, that was basically 5 minutes ago. But the East County Youth Collective, it didn't start then because the dreams they've been cooking for a while for spaces of belonging for young people.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So when you say a space of belonging, mm-hmm. what do you have in mind?
Goodness, that can be this room. So a lot of our congregations, we are crafting spaces of belonging. It's anywhere that young people are, and the hope is that they have these three facets of belonging: being noticed, being named, and being known. So whether that's in their school, in their congregation communities, in the spaces that they go in the community, in their families of origin, making sure that the adults that are accompanying them know how to make them feel listened to and supported, and that they matter there.
Okay. Noticed, named, and known. Mm-hmm. It's very kind of you mm-hmm. to start it alliteratively for mm-hmm. all of us. Mm-hmm. What do you mean by named? Mm-hmm. Like, I feel like you've unpacked noticed a bit, but what do you mean by named? And while you're at it, I mean, the obvious follow-up to that is going to be, what do you mean by known? So what do you mean by named and known?
Yeah. So we, on my team at Together Lab and in a lot of these congregations, we talk about those three things: noticed, named, and known. How when young people feel noticed, named, and known by the adults that are alongside them, that's like literally knowing their name, knowing the name that they like to be called, noticing that they're there, and that they play a role in the community that we're building together, and knowing the things that are important to them, the things that they love, the things that they are passionate about. It increases the likelihood of belonging by 5 times to have someone just like see them and really see them. And that's not just for the young people, that's for all of us. I'm seeing some nods. But starting that pattern for young people is incredibly transformative, especially in a time like this when so many of us and so many of our young people are not feeling seen, are not feeling heard.
You know, I grew up in a conservative evangelical background, and I've shared some of the wounds that I've carried with me from that. But when I was a teenager, my youth group was a place where I felt known in a different way, in a more profound way than the people who saw me every single day for 8 hours a day at school. But that named piece, my name's Giuseppe. Do you know what they called me at school? They spelt my name. By they, I mean the office. The office spelt my name as Guississippi. So they literally spelt my name Gississippi. And so the first day of class, my math teacher, Mr. Warwick, and my last name's Amato, so I'm at the very beginning of the list, right? And he goes, good. Good. Do you mind if I just call you Gus? And so, to this day, if I'm in that town and somebody who knew me when I was a teenager sees me, they'll go, oh, Gus! Do you know what name I hate? Gus. I don't feel like a Gus. No shame to those who are. It's not my name.
But that's not your name.
It's not my name. And so, you know, as a descendant of immigrants myself, I think there is that piece in there. Like, is my name really so hard for you to say? Like, you're not even going to make the effort to spell it right, you know? But those who do make the efforts to say my name, you know, that's a special thing. Or people who have a name for me that may not be my name, but it still carries that warmth of knowing, you know? Anybody who calls me Zeppy, I know where in the country they're from and how they're relating to me. If you're wondering, it's New Jersey. And the people in my family from New Jersey, Italian Americans from New Jersey, often turn their S's into Z's. So, and I do it too sometimes. Notice, named, and known.
Yeah, and I think there's so much there. I still remember the first time I walked into the church that I grew up in, and I had a long deconstruction and then came back at like 15, so prime time. And I walked into Hoodland Lutheran, and Clarence and Judy Edelman saw me, and they gave me a radical welcome. They had me sit next to them, and I remember sitting down and thinking, they saw me. I thought I was just going to sneak in. And there was not a youth. I didn't grow up going to youth group. I grew up going to quilting and to the men's Bible study group, and it opened another door of intergenerational belonging that I'm really excited to bring to the East County Youth Collective too, so that we can bridge our communities and feel seen together and really center those young people.
Yeah. You keep using this word belonging, and it sounds like it's an important one for you. What do you mean by that? Like, I've heard you say the phrase community of belonging, and it kind of reminds me of a conversation that Cris Delacruz had with us too. He said something similar. But what do you mean when you say it?
I experience something that is a blessing and a curse, and it's a bilingual brain. So I have all these words floating around all the time, so I'm going to say it in Spanish because that's the word that comes to mind when I think of belonging, and it's pertenezco, pertenencia, to belong, and it is with the understanding of like, just as you are. I think that speaking just from my own experience and my own young, I call my inner young person my medium. Not my little, but my medium. And my medium got really used to changing parts of myself as a young person in order to belong. If I just like talked a little different, or if Instead of being Cristina Yesenia Saldivar, I was just Christy, or I was just Chris. If I could just like volunteer for all of these roles and fit in the way that they wanted me to fit, then I can belong. And that is not belonging. So what it is to me, pertenencia, is just as you are, just as you appear, just as you bring all of these parts of you, as layered and complex as they are, they still get to be a part of this. And you don't have to change it. You don't have to do what we tell you to do to, word that comes to mind is assimilate. You get to just exist wholly, and we actually need you to exist as you are.
Do you have any principles that help foster that community of belonging? Like stuff that you're carrying with you that, like, if we try to pursue these, belonging is kind of a natural outgrowth of that.
It's part of the deal, I like to say, and yeah. I don't want to forget any. So let me just.
You have them written up?
Use my cheat sheet.
I thought this was a new question. You've got it right here. Okay.
It is a question that I like to check in with myself about. What are the pillars about what I'm doing and what we're doing, and let's make sure that like they're part of everything. So the values that come to mind, and kind of the like gut check of like, does this still feel like something that I'm doing, or does this feel like something that I need some help with? So the intergenerational collaboration, making sure that young people and adults feel seen, heard, and connected. Telling our stories with honesty and dignity. Making sure that the way that we're telling our stories are the way that honor all of the parts of us. And the big one that is the most challenging sometimes is collective power. Not challenging, but building collective power, growing in communities of care and action together, because it requires building something new and using what young people remind me that I lost a little bit, and it is that radical imagination that we heard from Prentice Hemphill this morning. That radical imagination that like somewhere we all kind of, maybe not all of us, I hope not all of us, but I'll say like I misplaced my radical imagination, but it's somewhere. I have to find it, and it's after conversations with young people that it is this glimmer that I'm like, oh, there it is. Oof. It's still here.
So I had a meeting with a couple of other clergy people last week with somebody in Portland City Hall, and we heard a lot of we can'ts, that's not a thing that can happen. This is impossible. Boy, I wish it could be different. And I really felt like that limits to a radical imagination. It throttles the improvements, the successes that we could have, not just for us, but for those beyond us. You know, once upon a time, We Shine was impossible to do in the city of Portland. 10 years ago, folks started fighting for the ability for church properties to use their space for a communal good beyond themselves, including, boy, some of the people in the room for that are folks you know now. And we've been a part for some of that journey, and we're on their shoulders. But this is supposed to be impossible, you know? Community orchards are supposed to be impossible. Food gardens are supposed to be impossible. I mean, this is a church. You're just supposed to do church things here. But this is a place that tries to foster belonging. How do you do any kind of belonging that matters if people are going hungry or are unhoused and we're not doing anything about it? So I appreciate that piece of radical imagination, because I need to be reminded of it, especially after that rather deflating meeting.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think each one of us in this room need the reminder that seemingly impossible things happen.
Mhm. I think about, again, youngest child, big immigrant family, my favorite question. Some of you will probably guess. Why?
Oh, yeah.
My mommy, pobrecita, I asked why a lot. And now these young people are really good at asking why. And I am so excited, and I am so proud, and I am so, sometimes I get a little anxious to accompany that why, because those whys are really loaded. And the why opens the door to the dreams of let's imagine something else.
Yeah.
We get to imagine something else.
Well, speaking of imagining something else,
Mm-hmm.
we have a couple of youth who fall into your age range that are attached to our church body in some way. I think more than that, if we go broader and we think about more of the networks that we hold and we carry, but we have more who are growing into and will grow into that age range. And so I'm wondering, when you imagine the East County Youth Collective a year from now, what do you see? What does this community of belonging look like? And I'm going to provide, like, has everybody here heard of Young Life before? Raise your hand if you've heard of Young Life. Do you have in mind Young Life? Do you have in mind something different? You know, is this a place or a group that gets together every week and like cracks open a Bible and talks about one very specific view of the divine, or do you have something else in mind?
Oh, I have some dreamy dreams in mind. I have regular gatherings where we center in stories. Maybe they're from the Bible. Maybe they are from The Very Hungry Caterpillar or A Bug's Life. I talk about A Bug's Life a lot with the young people that I accompany.
I mean, that is a movie about collective power.
Boy, is it.
Yeah. Yes,
and your voice being heard and imagining something different and working. Oh, this is going to be about A Bug's Life. We'll talk about A Bug's Life at coffee hour.
I respect the restraint.
Yeah, so I'm imagining something different, grounding in stories that maybe aren't the ones that we heard growing up on Sunday. Maybe they're ones that we heard around the table in church basements, or maybe they're ones that we heard from Spirit on a hike, or maybe they're ones that we heard in really, really tough moments, but grounding in stories and in purpose and play. And that it's not just one church, and that it's not just one space, that it's collective. I have the image of a big spider web. I was at the forest yesterday. I went to Mount Hood because I just needed to like lay eyes on the mountain and just remind myself that it was still there and it was still home and that I was going to be okay. And spoiler alert, it was still there and we are going to be okay. I got the message.
Yeah. It was a little cloudy. We couldn't see it over here. It was
cloudy and it was rainy, and then as soon as I got in my car to go home, the sun came out and I just peeked at the top of it. And when the sun came out, I saw a beautiful spider web that was just very well lit by the sun. And I was like, yes, that's what I would like. I would like the East County Youth Collective to just be interweaving relationship and action and story and dreams that all come together and intersect and strengthen each other.
Yeah.
So maybe it's different.
Yeah.
I think that's where I'm getting at. It's different than Young Life.
Yes, yes. I think one thing that's probably coming across, but I just want to name it just in case it's not. This is still developing.
Very much so.
Yeah, these are beginning days, and there has been activity that's started to happen. So I and a few other folks who you also know helped start the Southeast Portland Youth Collective, and one of the things that we learned really early on was that we needed to include the teens that we were hoping this would be for in the development of it. Like, in order for this to be meaningful and to matter, it needed to not just be a bunch of old heads who thought they knew what's best for them. It needed to include young leaders from the go. And I'm wondering what that's looking like for y'all.
Yeah, old heads. Apparently that's me now. And it's so humbling. Yeah, and I quickly learned that like I can plan events all day. I can think I know what they want, but if it doesn't come from them and it doesn't come from their dreams and their passions and their questions, it's not it. It's not what we want. And so the design has really, it's been coming together as like, what do you all want this to be? And that's been a really fun and continuing to transform question around, what are we doing? And it's been 6 months, and so far, I can name a few of the things that have happened so far.
Please.
So we have supported over 60 young people at retreats. So Camp Lutherwood hosted us in November and will host us again next weekend.
What did the retreat look like?
The retreat looked like going to Cheshire, Oregon, gorgeous piece of land at Camp Lutherwood, and grounding in the theme that was your story is sacred, my story is sacred, our story is sacred. Time outside, again, that cross-section of purpose and play. We did some hikes and land encounter and asked the questions about like, what is our story and what is our collective story? So that was in November. In April, we've been working with the theme Rooted and Rising, so talking to young people about what makes them feel rooted and connected to one another, and rising as emerging leaders in their community. Again, we like need the voices on the ground to impact the things that we want to do and see in our greater community. So the next retreat will be Friday. We will take another 55 young people to the forest and see what the trees have to tell us. And in between those two things, there have been monthly gatherings with East County youth. Erica, I know, is in the Mariners room, but man, I meant to mention this earlier. Another gift that this community has is Erica Martin.
Yes.
Yeah. I am so excited and grateful to be working alongside her and learning from Erica around radical care for the people in our communities and for the young people in our communities. So Erica hosted us around this beautiful, is the mural on this side? This side?
Over there.
That side. At the mural and spending some time outside in this beautiful property that you have with young people playing, planting native plants, and telling stories of this community. So that was our last gathering in March, and we'll continue to gather, we'll continue to play, and this summer I hope to continue to do that here with all of you.
You keep using this play word, and I needed that a lot when I was a teenager, but I also hated anybody referring to it as play. Like, no, this is, I'm hanging out, okay?
There is a bit of that tension too. I wonder,
us grown-ups still have it.
Yeah.
Hey, did you have a good time? What'd you do? And we'll I crafted. Oh, okay. So you played. No, I crafted.
Yeah.
You know, what'd you do? I worked out. Okay. You know, but it's really like I'm powering some positive endorphins in my body because I need it, and I'm knitting together my web of connection.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
The adultification of play, that is an invitation that I have to you all, is like this week, I invite you to play in some way or another, even if it's just during your walk, even if it's 15 minutes, like how can you play? And maybe it's for you now, or maybe it's for your little, but I love to play. And these young people remind me, I had to set up the food during the March gathering, and Erica pulled out like a really wild scooter that you have back here. I don't know if anybody has seen that. I had things to do, but
Don't worry, Carol, it's not yours.
But my little needed to get on that scooter, and I said, okay, I'm gonna get to this task, this administrative task later. I got on the scooter. I was very bad at it, and one of our older youth came over and said, let me show you. She gets on, and there's an incredible picture of Eleanor accompanying me on the scooter, shouting at me like a coach, like, put it in your head, like, use your hips. And yeah, that play is very much here.
Yeah. So we're almost at the end of our time, and one other thing I want to highlight is we use a lot of organizing language, like advocacy and activism type language around this role. So I think, this may be the first time that some of us have heard a term for someone in a position like yours referred to as an organizer. And that may be like a little, what is this? This group has also been involved in advocacy efforts. And I'm wondering if you can speak to that a bit. And one of the reasons I'm hoping for that is because when it comes to that stifling of imagination, it starts so early for us as human beings. That clamping down of what's possible. So what has advocacy looked like, organizing looked like from a trying to budge what's possible?
Yes, I'll be swift because I know we're running out of time. The advocacy piece has been really transformative and kind of changing minute by minute. Giuseppe mentioned there's a group of clergy that's been going to city council meetings and providing testimony from the stories on the ground to our leaders who are meeting the moment around ICE in our communities. We were obviously hit really hard by ICE harassing a lot of our community members. So that advocacy, public testimony, storytelling, and collective power saying, like, this isn't going to work for us and for the people that we accompany. And that, in my role, has looked like, connecting with youth around those same questions. Most recently, supporting some of the youth walkouts that have been happening in East County. Most recently, Friday, well, maybe I'll take us back to February really quick. A group of David Douglas students that had been hit pretty hard. There had been family members taken by ICE, and so many young people that were experiencing that stress, fear, uncertainty, and they thought they were doing it alone. And through a relationship that I had with a community member, I was able to join some youth in a meeting, and we talked about how, actually had a student say, we want to do this walkout, but our teachers can't join us, so are we going to do it alone? And it still hurts my stomach to think about that the student thought that he was going to do anything alone. And I said, oh, actually, no. None of us are doing any of this alone. So coming together and thinking of some real hopes for support and safety, that students can feel certain that they're going to come home to their parents still being there, that school will remain a safe place for them, and that they're going to have the resources that they need to thrive in their community. And so that advocacy has looked like walkout support. I remember the day before the walkout, or a couple days before the walkout, 35 students came to make their sign, and I said, excellent, if we get 36 students to walk out, this is going to have some real resonance. 800 students walked out, and I still think about hearing their footsteps. And I remember Cris Cruz looked at me and said, that's a little more than 35 students. But being able to gather community volunteers and adults saying, like, no, you are not doing this alone, and we are here with you, and we are standing by you, and we're going to make sure that you continue to be safe in your home. And
that's beautiful. That's beloved community in action. That's straight up Jesus stuff.
It's straight up Jesus stuff, and it's in real time, and it's I just keep hearing them say, this is just the first step. I'm like, yeah, it's just the first step. After that walkout Friday, we had 8 elected officials at the David Douglas Performing Arts Center, from hyper-local school district officials to Maxine Dexter, who came to listen to these young people about their, yes, shout out, to listen to these young people. It was planned, facilitated by young people, by incredible staff members that were letting them lead. And it was, again, I just keep saying, this is the most profound experience of my career, and it just keeps happening. So maybe I should just wait, because these things keep happening when we let young people lead.
Yes. Let young people lead instead of bossing them around. And I like that you keep using this word of support. I've heard accompany in here. Okay.
We'll keep talking later.
Yes. Do we have any questions in the room? We have time for 2. Okay. Nick first. Steve, Travis is bringing the mic. Yeah. No, you're not.
I just have a quick question. I have 2 young ones who are not in the age range yet, but they are both on the spectrum. And so when you're thinking about the kids as a collective, how is it handled for children who might need a little extra support?
Yeah.
That's a good question, and I think another part of that radical belonging too, like making sure that our gatherings are centered in the needs and also the things that our young people are involved in. And so that would look like me or the adults that are creating those spaces, centering the youth and the family. So we would talk about, what those needs are and how to make sure to accommodate them. I'll very quickly also plug the culture that we're trying to cultivate, is that those are like norms that everyone is going to be equipped with. So our volunteers who are supporting in those spaces will have gone through like a boundaries training, and that's another thing that we're looking to incorporate, is how to tend to all needs of our young people.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions? All right, my friends. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, everybody.
Cris, thank you.